Oi, oi. I did not do a very good job of setup this time. I say that I didn't do a good job this time, but let's be honest, I don't do a good job at this anytime.
What do you mean?
Okay, so we used to have a much cleaner podcast setup than
Mm,
what's currently happening right now. Like my mic stand is like funky because the previous mic stand got like jacked up as the firefighters were getting to the window. So, we've got like the new mic stand and
I was gonna say your office is like under construction, basically.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I've got most of my stuff. I've got like my toggle between my work computer and my personal computer is absent and still covered in like dust,
But
like nastiness. Yeah.
yeah.
So, I've been making do with just like one cord when I need to bounce back and forth. Um, and then I've got to, you know, rush my setup. Okay, I didn't have to rush the setup. I rushed the setup because I was working on other things
Mhm.
up until the wire. So here we are now.
Here we are.
Yeah. Um, so what I was working on is um, is the red file, which is the defense portion of our family fond pack, which
Mhm.
is going to be, you know, it answers the question if you're in an emergency or if your house catches fire and you can only grab one thing, what do you grab? Well, the answer is you grab the red file. And sure enough, we grabbed the red file.
That we did.
Yes, we did.
Go team.
So we got, children out and then adults out, cat out, and red file. Um,
And as I've been thinking about it,
like I didn't have shoes on.
I
I'm in
know,
my boxer shorts and like a
like a scarf.
bandana, putting on a naked show for the whole neighborhood. The
To
neighborhood's
be
all
fair, the neighbors were pretty into it. They were like, you can respond to an emergency anytime.
crap, you know.
And
So
I was like, right?
yeah, that was interesting. Um to just be buck naked, you know.
Yeah,
But you know, we
shit
got
happens.
we got the red file.
Yeah, we did.
We saved the cat. So
We
we are
did.
clearly the good guys.
Yeah, right.
Um, yeah.
As you were putting the defense portion of the bond pack together today and talking about the red file, I was reflecting and I was like, oh, there's some important documents that I need to add to our red file to make sure
Yes.
that it's really like really filled out, like birth certificates and all
So
things.
so I've also added a checklist. So I've got a
Perfect.
critical the CDC, the critical docs checklist.
Mhm.
So so we've got the critical docs checklist and then we've got the red file checklist itself. So the crazy thing is the red file checklist is supposed to have all of the bits of information and you just like insert that into the red file and now you've got all of your wi-fi password, your access logs or whatever, or at least they're hints. I do make a note like don't just keep all of your passwords out and about.
Right.
um, Although I do kind of like sticky notes, So if I mean if somebody is break has broken into your house and is trying to access your computer, the sticky note is like not awesome because here you go, Mr. Criminal.
You're
Um,
welcome.
but at the same time, if you're an emergency or you're incapacitated and you need somebody else to access your computer to get some vital information, well, then somebody's got to have this password or enough clues to be able to figure it out, because they know you, trust you, or whatever. So,
Yeah.
um, you know,
Also, it's probably worth investigating since everybody has a cell phone. Some cell phones have like an emergency access section
mhm.
that emergency services can get into without your passcode, where you can list like medications you're taking, an emergency contact number, some things. And I helped my dad set this up for his medication. So if anybody responded to the house and grabbed his cell phone, emergency services could get in there, and my number's in there, and his sister Sharon's number's in there. And you don't need that person's phone passcode to access that section of the phone. And I think most like emergency first responders have whatever the protocol is to look at that stuff, but it's probably different based on the phone model that you have. But I was like, oh, this would be a good, doing this checklist would be a good moment to like check what your phone has for emergency access information, update it, make sure you list, who to contact and things like
Why
that.
are you just now telling me about this? Why haven't you put it into the thing? Put it
I
into the
just
file.
literally thought about it because we've been doing this afternoon.
Well, okay. Um, Aaron's gonna include that.
Yeah.
It's going on the task list, and guess who's got it?
Ha. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I also want to include like some digital hygiene, some screen time policy kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that I mean, this is what I was telling my brother today, as I was like, dude, you got to get stuff out in the open, and you got to work it out for yourselves before you try to teach it to your kids.
Yeah.
And if you are the worst offender of the phone situation, I read a statistic that people are getting hernias at a higher rate, because they're sitting on the phone longer. Or not sitting on the phone. They're sitting on the toilet longer because they're tinking around with their phone.
How does that give you a hernia?
Like they're just like straining and they're just like sitting
Oh,
they're sitting on the toilet, not moving, and then their body is getting into this position, or they're like stressing out, or
that's
maybe it's not a
awful.
hernia, maybe it's hemorrhoids. Like it's one of those H words that has to do with your bum that I don't ever like to think about.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, gross.
That's a
But
terrible update.
so it's like, hey, don't just be hanging out on your phone on the toilet.
Do
It's
your
time
business and
to
get moving.
shit or get off the pot.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, noted.
Yeah. So that's a thing. And I want to just have, again, digital hygiene. Also, what October was cybersecurity month at work, and
Was
so
it?
the tech team was just blasting us with like cybersecurity emails and all this other stuff, and I'm tempted to just throw this stuff that they were feeding us into the red file content.
I mean, if it's
Um,
good, yeah, add it in.
yeah, so it's like, hey, here's, corporate level, um, cybersecurity guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. I'm now gonna write that down because I didn't think about that. You know what it did? I've been like dreaming in cybersecurity just because they like plastered it onto my background. So every time I log into the
Oh,
computer, it's like, here are the bullet points of what you should check. Is your password strong? Like, all that kind of
that's
stuff.
so funny. October was a lot of things. I think it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I found out in the past couple of years it's also Blindness Awareness Month.
Oh,
So I was like, oh, that's, you know, appropriate.
yeah. Um,
Lots of causes apparently choose October as their awareness month.
Yeah, well, I mean, shoot, you only got 12 months to pick from, so, people are just gonna pile on.
Yeah,
And it's like you can't what's happening though is with like holidays and months and things is that it's the refrigerator effect where you put like one thing on the refrigerator and then you put like 1,000 things and then you just like stop looking at them all and you just get the food.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So, how do you avoid the refrigerator effect? Is that you're like, listen, you only get what you're looking for, or you
yeah,
like have a place where you consistently see the thing that you're going to use or that you're going to need. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
And I think just like everything about our life right now is making me aware of like reduction. Less is better, less clutter, less options, less things.
Ah, yes. She has finally come to my way of thinking, the way of subtraction.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Um,
good.
yeah, that's the thing is that I used to move so frequently. And so if it didn't fit in my car, I was just like,
Don't need
it's
it.
got to go.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. And so, that whole vagabond, nomad lifestyle that, Jim and I really got into, um, has just kept everything minimal because then it's like well shoot the other thing is like being broke as fuck is that'll like you
that'll do
downsize
it.
it's like what can I sell
That'll do
so
it.
that I can hit my grocery bill and still pay rent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always exciting. um
So, real talk.
yeah. Um, so I wanted to spend today's episode, and this is again, I think this is going to be one of those open to everyone episodes, um, because what did we do this weekend? We Go ahead.
Life came in real hot this weekend.
Yeah. Life, I mean, the 2025 is a turning point. What is it? We watched this video that said what I've been saying and like what's going into my sci-fi novel
Mhm.
um is that every 80 years there's a major cycle change between an old an old regime and a new regime. And this video we were watching was by this guy who used to write for Wired magazine, who'd been like chronicling the rise of technology. And he said 2025 is the midpoint between the transition out of the old era and into the new era, where we're about to just experience a massive expansion or change in the dynamic of how the world operates. So a couple of examples were, the Industrial Revolution and the Civil War, and again, now we're at this point where these 80-year cycles are happening, and we were kind of smack dab in the middle of one of them. Or maybe it was like, so maybe I'm mixing two. Ray Dalio is the one who I think does 80-year cycles. Or there's like a brief period in between. But this video is showing like 25 years, like 50-year cycles. And so 2000 to 25 to 50, I think was what they were citing in this particular one.
I
But there's
do
some
remember that video, but I don't remember exactly what like packets of time they used.
Yeah, and so they were saying that the major innovative shift for this next go around is AI, biotech, and um, I don't remember what the third. Oh, energy. It was like sustainable energy.
Mhm.
So this is exactly what I clocked in the book that I wrote. or that I at least drafted the first bit of it 15 years ago, and I finished that draft in what 2020. So I finished it 5 years ago. It has not been published yet because I wanted to improve my writing chops before, because you imagine the thing in your head and it doesn't come out on paper quite how you wanted it. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, there's a threshold here, but it's got to be better than the stick figure drawing that I had in my mind. Um, because I started out with this concept as a comic book, and it eventually evolved as my understanding of political economy and technology evolved. So this book became this like massive treatise on the future of technology. And the way I came up with this is I made like a massive forecast of a decade at a time over the course of, again, like 80 years, 80 to 100 years.
You did a whole pest analysis for it.
I did. And so that'll be one of those like maps that I eventually show people. Maybe I'll put it into the appendix of the book or something so people can see it, how I came to these conclusions, and that a lot of, even though it's a science fiction book, a lot of the elements that have made it into the book are from, factual reality, from ongoing existing research now, which is funny because again, I wrote that pest analysis at least 10 years ago, and I've already started to see things move apace
Mhm.
according to that. And whenever a new one pops up, I'm like, oh, did the thing.
Yeah.
Nostradamus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. But talking about cycles, we had a birth and death cycle that has been kind of a major theme of 2025 for our lives.
Mhm.
And that all seemed to culminate on Sunday.
Yeah,
Uh,
so we had a baby shower that was on the calendar and a very important baby shower. It's going to be
mhm,
your goddaughter,
mhm.
an aunt and
I will
uncle.
officially become the Godfather.
Oh, officially. Your best friend is expecting his first child. So this has been on the calendar for a while. And then, very sadly, 2 weeks ago, one of my very dearest friends passed away very unexpectedly, um, which was a big um, emotional shock and a really big loss. And then her funeral ended up being scheduled on the exact same day as the baby shower. And whenever
Yeah.
something like that happens, you're like, I mean, what can you say? Like, gosh, could you have passed away at a more convenient time? I'm booked. Like,
Yeah.
you can't, like, that's just how things roll. And it was very important for me to go to the funeral. I've missed a fair amount. There's been a lot of death in my fairly young life, as with yours. We've both experienced a lot of
Um,
loss, a lot of death. We've both missed out on some tremendously important funerals that we would have benefited from attending through circumstance, through whatever. So I really felt really important to me to be at this. And then the family asked me to sing at the service. And I was like, can't say no to that. Can't say no to that. And as much as I wanted our entire family to attend both events as a unit all together, we went with the divide and conquer approach because baby shower is a 5 hour drive away out of town. Um, and it felt really important and valuable for us to be physically represented in both locations because our whole family motto is personal integrity and public service. And we wanted to keep our commitment to the baby shower. I wanted to be of service to my friend's family. And showing up for our people in person is something that you and I both really, really value and are trying to teach the kids. So
and the word you kept repeating was it felt honorable to
it
be at
did.
both events.
I would have felt like we shortchanged somebody if we hadn't attended, found a way to attend both. It did feel honorable. That felt as much as I was like emotionally upset by the circumstances, it did feel like the honorable decision to make. So you took our oldest with you to Walla Walla to
Mm.
attend overnight, and you got a bonding and a road trip and a whole
Yeah.
deal.
I'm okay, so we are definitely a go for the new cosplay. The Comic-Con is we're gonna go as Rock Lee and Guy Sensei because this kid is like mini me. He dresses like me now, and
Yeah, it's so
I
cute.
got him doing workouts um
It's so sweet.
and he's so enthusiastic. What a great attitude. And so he was like, okay, I'm ready for the trip. And I was like, dude, do you have like this and that? And he's like, oh, no, I need to go get that. I was like, do you have a jacket? It's literally raining outside. Oh yeah, I need a jacket. I'll go get the jacket. I was just like, all right, man. All right,
But so down. He's like
yeah,
down to go, like whatever. He's like, let's do it.
yeah.
It's very sweet. And I'm sure he loves spending that time with you and getting to do something out of the ordinary and special with just, Pops.
Just the two of us
Yeah. Which, by
building
the way,
castles in the sky. Just the
he
two of
recently
us.
told me he loves that song.
Does he really?
Yeah. He found it on Spotify and he's like, this song is great. I was like, it is great.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
He told me he loves Bill Withers, and I was like, oh.
Oh, you just keep on using me until
Mhm.
you use me up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's great. Please keep singing. So
Uh-huh.
I'm glad you guys got that time together and you were there, for your best friend, and you got to see a lot of his extended family that you haven't seen in a while. And it's good
Oh
to
my
like
God, years.
have those connections in person. Probably the last time you saw most of them was at his sister's wedding.
No, it was the bonfire.
Oh,
Um,
we saw a couple people then. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, a lot of the family we hadn't seen, and you know who was with it? Paul was with us. We went shooting
At the bonfire.
at the
Yeah.
bonfire, but yeah,
But that was
um,
2022 that we went on that trip.
3 years. So it's been 3 years since I've seen them.
Yeah. And there
Yeah.
was some extended family at the baby shower that you'd spent even longer for you.
Right?
So to like show up in person and get to see everybody and his mom and her recent loss and like, lost her home to a fire and like
A
just
month after ours.
a month after us. I know, bananas. So I feel like it was really important that you were there and it was great to
And
take
I
time.
saw the wreckage too. That was okay. So that was a forest fire or not a forest fire. It was like a combine fire. So like the whole crop went up
A
and then
field. Yeah.
so we drove past and I was like watching the carnage, you see like those
Oh,
Sherlock Holmes like shows where they like or like the detective and they like imagine the event like happening. That's
yeah.
what was going on because I was watching this hillside just get blackened as we drove past, and then like the trees are bare and the bottoms are like complete blackened char, and then it jumped the street. And so now, Jim's recounting the story as we get closer to the property. And he's like, the fire jumped across, burned this other field, this place that we could see just like clear open land that used to be like brush and like you couldn't see through any of that because it was all just like, a foresty area that was just gone. Um, and it wiped out the house. There was a
Two
car
houses,
parked out.
right?
It melted the car. Everything but the engine block just gone.
I mean, fire is brutal and unforgiving and fast and um it's crazy to think that. I mean, we've been in those
And
places.
she just happened to be at the grocery store when
Thank
the fire hit.
God.
Just
Thank
like,
God.
yeah,
And all the outside cats escaped harm somehow. Clever
no,
little,
not the chickens.
not the
They were fried chickens.
country fried
Ooh,
chicken.
country fried chicken.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like all that's happened this year, I felt like it was a big deal for you to go and be at this event.
Yeah.
And your best friend, he comes and visits us whenever he can and makes a drive over the pass. And it felt like a reciprocal thing to make the drive over for this really important event in his life. So I'm really happy that you did that. And that left me and our youngest here to attend the service. And, um, we talked a lot when we were making this decision about these logistics. It's valuable to learn about death and attend to these things. And part of the um, part of the discussion was, oh, well, we would like to be together when he learns about death. So you can talk to him.
Yeah.
I can feel supported and all these things. But the lesson is still valuable. And he got to experience what a funeral is like. And he had to practice some things that are challenging for him, like focus and being reserved and taking things seriously and self-control and, paying attention, being somber. These are things that are a real challenge for him. And he really rose to the occasion and he did a great job. And
And
um,
I talked to him while you were in the shower before the event,
mhm.
and I told him like, "Hey, man, I'm out. This is you. You got to hold down the fort. You're the man right now. And this is a tough time for your mom. Don't just like wait around for something. And you can ask like if there's anything that needs to be done, but like look around, see if you can find any problems that need solving, and is it within your power to do? And if it is, get to it."
And he
And
did great. He did
yeah.
great. No complaining, no like asking for stuff. He was polite and patient and he kept it together and displayed, especially for him, an impressive amount of self-control and poise. And everybody, there's a big extended part of my music and friend community were involved in and attending this service. And lots of people said to me after, like, your son is so well behaved and so like how remarkable that your like 11-year-old is here to support you on this day. And everyone was very impressed with his behavior and his, demeanor. And I'm really proud of both the boys. They handled this weekend really, really well.
I am proud of both of the boys, but I feel I feel more pride for young Gecko because he has been struggling, and to see him doing all of these things that we've asked of him, and to see that maturity finally coming through, because we've been talking about this, right? Like people grow up, but they don't always grow up, you
Right.
know?
And everybody has stumbles and setbacks, and I'm sure there are more stumbles and setbacks ahead from him. But
Hmm.
he's really rising to the occasion and he's putting in a tremendous amount of effort. And
And he's getting results now. And
he is.
that's the
He
thing, is
is.
that he was really struggling with the behavior change. He's a definite empath, and we
Big
talk
feelings.
he's got big feelings. He's like me,
He's like both of us.
his mind is overactive and he feels everything.
He
And
feels it dialed up to like 15.
And it translates to a lot of like, going to the black. Like, I don't know what to do with this feeling overload.
Yeah.
His brain explodes and he freaks out, whether it's like a fear. And we basically talked about Inside Out, right? Like, use that. I like that movie, not because it's like a perfect representation of the emotional spectrum and how they operate, but it's a really simple way to categorize what you're feeling. It gives the kids language to talk about it. And so I said, of the five, what are the ones that you feel the most? And he's like, fear and joy. And I'm like, cool. He doesn't really have a lot of disgust. He doesn't get really angry. He'll get frustrated sometimes, but he'll get frustrated more around you, mostly because I feel like he knows he knows that getting angry in my vicinity isn't gonna go well for him.
And with me, he's like, oh, if I get angry, mom might feel bad that I feel bad.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see what I can get from her. Not in
And
a
so,
manipulative way, but in a like, that's just a pattern because I feel bad when they feel bad.
yeah. And the thing is, I feel bad when they feel bad, but at the same time, I'm like,
You just you keep a lock on it. I'm
there's
like, oh, and you're like, suck it up.
I'm just like, hey man, pain is part of the process.
Yeah, it's real. It's super real. But
Yeah.
I'm extra proud of Milo as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I'm proud of both boys. I told you last night when we were downloading, I am proud of our family for
Hmm.
showing up for these things and handling these events and the service itself. Um, Despite having experienced loss, I haven't been to a funeral in quite some time. And like you and I were talking about, and I said earlier, we've both missed some very important funerals, missed out on some very important funerals. And so this it felt like a big deal, and it was really beautiful, and it was incredibly sad because there's this whole layer of just it's hard to escape the feeling of injustice that like someone was taken so young and for seemingly no reason, like, out of the blue, so unexpected. Death is never a picnic, even if it's a long time coming. But if you have a chance to prepare, um, that's a little bit of a different energy when someone's death is like something you can prepare for. And there's a bit of a different sense of like release and relief when someone who's been suffering for a long time is free of pain. And um, this was not like that. She was young and vibrant and in a better, healthier place than she'd been in a lot of years. And so to lose her on the verge of, in the middle of, and on the verge of a lot of success and triumph for her, felt especially, had a special kind of sting to it. But something you
Yeah.
said to me that I really appreciated right after she passed, and I was really in the thick of it, is that, she had an honorable death, an honorable passing, because she was fighting hard for everything that she wanted. And if there is such a thing as, when your spirit goes on and joins the manifold divinity, whatever the next iteration is, um, if there's an awareness of who you were or a look back of any type, I feel certain that she would reflect back on her life with no regrets because she went for it. She went for what she wanted. She struggled, but she fought. She fought really hard and she was having a lot of success and gaining a lot of ground. And she would look back and not be like, would things have gone different for me if I had tried? Because
He was.
she was trying really hard and she was getting results, and I was incredibly proud of her. So really, really sad and also special to be able to be a part of it. Um, to be asked to perform and provide music as part of somebody's send-off service feels like an incredible honor. And I feel like I was able to prepare some music that was really, really meaningful to her family. So it was a joy to get to do that. And the extended music community is also planning a tribute concert for her in a couple of weeks. So we'll get to say goodbye in a different way, which I actually think might even be the most healing because there was so much sadness and so much grief, in the presence of her family. But for us to come together and try to explode some joy in her honor, and sing things that would not have been appropriate at a funeral home, but would absolutely be appropriate at a concert that's designed to encapsulate a lot of music that she loved. That'll be really special to participate in as well. So I'm grateful for outlets to express grief and sorrow and love. I'm grateful for community and collaboration and for our family, not just to have the support system that we provide each other, but you know, what a valuable lesson she is helping us teach. These boys are watching us grieve and learning the value of love so big that it really hurts to lose it.
Yeah. I think that's really profound. And to sort of contrast, well, this is what's interesting about this theme is that we just had Halloween, right? The Day of the Dead. And we had a conversation with the boys at dinner like maybe a week or so before. And they were excited about the costumes and the things, and then
The revelry.
and the revelry. And I was just like, here, and okay, why I gotta be negative Nathan all the time? Like I'm always Debbie Downering because I bring in like
Negative.
the real shit. And I said, you guys know what Halloween is for, right? And they're like, well, you go,
Candy.
you get candy and you dress up all spooky. And it's like, okay, guys, here we go.
Yeah.
And so I said, what it really is it's about honoring the dead. And that's one of our virtues, right? Is that you pay it back and you pay it forward. Because this life isn't your own. There's a growing, and the sense of entitlement has grown to such a strong extent, I feel culturally in the Western culture that we are, taking a sledgehammer to the institutions or to the platforms that we're standing on. And I'm like, this is not very bright. And so I I revere the past. And to say that everything was just terrible and everybody was like, wicked, it's like, yeah, but for their time, that's what they did. And so, I think about like the Christopher Columbus example where, this guy just came out of the Inquisitions, right? Like they're burning people at the stake back home. And so for him to give a couple of blankets that, allegedly have plagues on him, do you know what I mean? Like that's not that strange of a behavior coming from his era. This doesn't necessarily excuse it, but at the same time, morality is a technology. And
Yeah, and I do have to consider the context.
yeah. So, we needed these brilliant philosophers over time to come up with these moral philosophies to help us understand things. And then, well, this is what story does, is it allows us to reframe something that is timeless and universal and repackage it for whatever the current circumstances are. This has sort of been bastardized in the movie world with like the modern audience, and they've taken the instead of looking at the context of today's world, they've just like done away with the timeless and universal theme quality.
Mhm.
Um, but I digress. The main thing I wanted to get at was um, the Day of the Dead is about being grateful for who came before us, and gifted us with this inheritance, right? We don't have the same kind of hardship, and that's something that Jim was talking about. With the eldest, is it's like, hey man, we're fortunate that the house burning down is a minor inconvenience. Yes, we lost sentimental items. We lost all of their family's history, and it goes back a long way.
They've been on that
And
property for like generations.
and that's, I mean, that's his whole home. He lived there, grew up there, and it's sheltered, three or four generations of their family, and it's
Yeah,
just gone.
it's a
Everything
big
that
deal.
they had is gone. And he's like, well, kid, back in the day, your house burns down, you just kind of starve, or
You're literally out in the cold.
right? Or like your kids get distributed to, whoever else can handle them because chances are you can't.
You can no
Um,
longer shelter them.
yeah. So, you know, insurance, is going to cover everything. So, they're going to get a new house, and so that'll be really great. And it's just a waiting game, and she's got a place to stay until then. And so, you know, we don't have these same kinds of struggles. We were listening to an article, being read while we were on the drive over, that was talking about AI, and the implications of science, and how science is, we have more scientists now than at any other point in history, and yet we're making fewer revolutionary technologies than at other times in history. Yes, we're making like cool tools and AI and stuff like that, but at the same time, we're getting really, really granular. We're not making these like massive sweeping changes because we've mostly solved the survival stuff. You
Yeah,
know, it's not evenly distributed, geographically or socioeconomically, but it exists now. You know,
yeah,
you can live for a really long time. We got a vaccine for just about everything. If you
right.
got we can just replace pretty much any part. Like,
We're
it's
not
a
all tapping
crazy
out at 30
phenomenon.
anymore.
We got replacement parts for people.
Yeah,
You know.
that's bananas.
So, our challenge for the future, right, to pay it forward is, what do we give the next generation, right? And so, to sort of close the loop on the Day of the Dead portion, we should be grateful, and that's what we say in our prayer. We give thanks to those who came before us, who labored and sacrificed so we could live. And this this concept, of closure, like we talked about last night, I didn't get. So I had, like, one loss after another. My uncle died, my grandfather died, my girlfriend at the time was murdered, and you know, I lost I lost something else that was very valuable to me. My dog died. Like, my life was a country song, you know? Oh, my girlfriend left me and my dog died. And, like, do you know what I mean?
You had a rough stretch of years there.
That was how my life was. And I remember one of my mentors, because the girl, died on campus, and everyone was like talking, oh, have you heard about the girl that died? And I was like, yeah, because we were friends for like 6 years and we had just started dating. And so I didn't get to go to the funeral because I didn't know her parents like that. And I felt like it would be a weird imposition for me to just like,
Show
hey,
up.
because like they knew of me because we were in the orchestra together. But at the same time, it was just like, man, I had just started this, sort of budding relationship, that, like, it was a great friendship that had like turned into something. And I was like, I was gonna go and see her in a couple of days, and she thought everything was fine. And then, this crazy person, you know? So that was like something. And my mentor was like, I told him, I was like, oh yeah, that I was seeing her. And he's like, oh, you okay? And I was like, yeah, I've got a lot of work to do. And he's like, you should probably take a minute. And I was like, yeah, no. And so I just started working, and I never stopped. And that's what I ended up doing, is anytime a tragedy would strike, I would just work more.
Yeah.
And, I started to really feel it when I went to San Francisco, because that was probably like the biggest tragedy, had happened right before then. And I'm like in this environment, and it's fast paced, and it's, hostile, and I'm like really trying to stay afloat. I'm doing grad school full time, I'm working full time, my job like sucks. And you know I was disappointed with a lot of aspects of the graduate curriculum. um I was like, if you go to grad school for a network, I was Like I'm probably not going to get a lot of power ups from this network. And so I was like trying to make the best out of this really bad situation. And, I use the analogy of playing injured, right? Like you've got a busted leg and you've just splinted it up and you keep playing. And that's exactly what I did with my back, is that I didn't take the time to go and get my back fixed up. And I just kept playing football until I literally crushed my vertebrae. And I did it in the weight room. I threw up, you know, some X percentage over my body weight, and I dislocated my vertebrae and crushed this thing. And then I finally got the X-ray, and the doc's like, "Well, I haven't seen a spine this bad in anybody under the age of 70." He's
Amazing.
like, "How are you standing, let alone playing collegiate football?" And I was like, "I have a high pain tolerance."
Understatement of the century. Jesus Christ.
You know? And so what happened is both my back and my heart healed really janky. And I didn't get a chance to heal from all of that grief until I met you. Um, and oh no, trauma bonding. No, no. What ended up happening is I just needed a moment to not have a million things bearing down on me so that I could reflect and recover. And instead of just like re-injuring, reopening old wounds.
And you
And
absolutely could have done that on your own. You didn't need me to do it, but I was very happy to have been able to offer you support during that time.
yeah, and I think mostly what it was is I could go and spend time with you and you wouldn't pry and you wouldn't judge. And I didn't feel comfortable going into a lot of social situations because everything I had to say was like negative. And I feel like everybody just wants a happy ending when you walk up, when you talk to them, like nobody's there for the real shit. They just want you to say like, "Oh, I'm fine. Oh, everything's okay." And I'm like, actually, some of the most important people in my life have just died, and I have no idea how to handle this shit. And I I don't have the luxury of taking a break. You know, I can't afford financially to take a break. Um, and so I've just got to keep going. And and so I did. And now I have this whole trail of people who know me, and all they know is like trauma me. And it's like that's not who I am. That's the the
That's who
me
you
who's
were in
like
that
bleeding out
moment.
on the sidewalk, like
Yeah.
you know. And so the irony is when I finally got all healed up, COVID happened, and then I became super isolated. So, that became a whole nother problem. And so the idea of having um, some ceremony, some ritual, something to help you let go and to create that catharsis and to heal those wounds, right? That funeral was really valuable for making that happen. And I'm grateful that you got that because I know what it's like to not have that closure, to
Me
not have
too.
something for that.
Me too. And this was a really different and profound experience to have that. And I feel grateful as well. And I'm not, and the privilege of being able to be there is certainly not lost on me because I have not been able to be there for other funerals that would have mattered a lot to me. And I didn't think very much in the lead up about how I would feel after the funeral.
Mm.
Um, And here I am the day after. And even though that gratitude is there and I'm aware of it up here, I just feel really, really sad again because I'm like, oh, she's really gone. I watched them put her in the ground. She's really gone. Um, and to see, I know I'll look back, you know, that's the thing about time. Time takes time. And time will pass, and I will think back on the experience of that day and be grateful. I know I'll be nothing but grateful for that experience. But I was pretty wiped out emotionally afterwards. And today I'm just like, oh, it's really real. It's really
Yeah.
real. Um, Being involved in that experience is, like you said, cathartic, but it also, that's the thing about death. It's so final. You know, you drift apart from people in your life, or you stop talking for one reason or another, and you always think about them, and you don't realize how connected you actually stay to people. You think about them, you have a memory of them, you stalk them on Facebook and see what they're up to. You run into somebody years after you last saw them, which makes you think of a whole slew of other people and memories and moments. And, um, you know, death is so final. And despite being a universal part of the human experience, something that should theoretically or could theoretically bring us all together because it's something that we all have to endure and eventually experience. Um, that universality does not make it easier in my experience.
Yeah.
Um, and again, profoundly grateful to have shared that experience with a large group of people who loved her. But I am very sad today because the reality and the finality is sinking in. Um, and grief is a process, healing is a process. You had a lot of really horrible losses and traumatic and painful experiences that you didn't have an opportunity to heal properly from. I experienced some of the same. And you do your best to get through it and heal, and healing comes in waves. Healing takes time. And you and I still encounter things in life that bring back bad patterns or bad memories or things from other places in our journey that we then have to deal with again in the present. And like, oh, that's still a thing for me. Or,
Hmm.
oh, that's still affecting me, even though I've theoretically and logistically moved on from that. And even though I'm aware up here that I'm not in those circumstances anymore, you know, we have emotional responses sometimes that make you feel like you are, or that you're still responding as if you were in those circumstances. So all of these things are a part of life, and all of them are valuable lessons that our kids are watching us experience and try to grow from and try to manage. And having emotion in front of your children and talking about what you're experiencing and trying to explain to them. All in all, what a valuable weekend, but what a difficult and beautiful weekend. And, you know, we had a lot of talks last night too about the, I don't know if irony is the right word, the correctness, the beauty of sending someone off to the next adventure and welcoming someone in to this adventure. Um,
So
Same.
along those lines, that's what I actually want us to sort of close out with. Is, again, Day of the Dead. And I have this coin um on my desk. And when I eventually show the video of this, I've got my coin, and my coin on one side, it says, carpe diem. And on the other hand, on the other side, it says memento mori. And this lives on, there it is, this lives on my desk. And every morning when I sit down to work, I say carpe diem and then I flip it over and then I work with memento mori face up all day. And then when I close out my workday, I flip it back over because I think the awareness of death in the modern world is so removed that it hits you by surprise, and the lack of preparation for it can be really jarring and traumatic. But at the same time, to seize the day is to recognize that you know, what are the things that I want to do with this one life? What are the things that I want to do? If we only live once, if YOLO is the motto, as Drake and Lil Wayne like to say, um, then what can I do? What can I do to make sure that I leave an inheritance greater than or equal to the inheritance I received? And so, what the article that came out today, I was writing over the weekend, the end of human creativity, and I'll probably make some changes to this over time. I ran it through the essay architecture app, and I was not pleased with the score I received. So I'm going to make some adjustments because I also want to beat that competition because I know I can write a better essay.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm a better fiction writer than I am nonfiction, I would argue. And so the whole theme around this is about the concept of virtue and the concept that, your belief system, right? What is a belief? It's terms and conditions. It's a conditional statement about what you believe is true, or what you believe, how you believe the world works. And unlike, let's say, a mathematical proof that is purely objective and descriptive, a belief is subjective, and you know interpretive. So the way that you interpret the world matters. And I think one of the big challenges that the modern world is facing is, with a lack of trust in institutions, has also come like a throwing of the baby out with the bathwater where it comes to effective structures of belief. You look at organized religion, and it's not always the precepts that are the problem, it's the administration, right? So, you go to a bad church and you got a preacher who is, zealous but in a negative way, and is taking his interpretation of the belief system and then imposing it on his congregation, right? That's not awesome. And you've got individuals who aren't taking responsibility for understanding what are the underlying components here. So one of the things that we're looking at in the future is, there's a lot of uncertainty in the external environment. So I say, well, if there's going to be all of this uncertainty, what is it that we can teach with certainty? What is something that we can pass on to our kids that will help prepare them? And one of those things is a belief system, a value system, and the value system that we want to pass on is the one that we can find that's most aligned with empirical reality, right? Not something that is, because the default mode is, well, I have an emotional visceral feeling, and if I assign all of my beliefs to my feelings, well, that's not always going to work out for me because my feelings are fleeting, or they're not necessarily calibrated to what's real, right? You can have, I mean, there's this movie After Earth, and it got really bad reviews, but one of the quotes that I loved about it is, you know, fear is not real, danger is real. And And I'm like, that's interesting because your fear is a signal that your body is sending to you that there might be danger present. But your emotions tend to be overreactive, right? They'll signal you when when there isn't actually danger, or they're
They don't
underreactive,
need to. Yeah.
right? I'm actually in danger, but my emotions aren't firing right now. And so you do something that is severely risky or severely dangerous, and you pay for it. So how do we then calibrate our emotions, right, to to alert us when we actually need them, right? I needed to tell me that there's danger present because, if you're if your mind's eye, right, is here and you have all of this emotional and physical signal that is being, sent up, how do you make your internal committee, right, more effective at delivering you the signals that you need when you need them so that you can make better decisive action, right?
Hmm.
And that all starts with belief, right? BIDAR chain. Your beliefs create your interpretations create your decisions create your actions, and your actions create your results, and then your results reinforce your beliefs. So if you can create really effective, empirically based belief systems and then practice those belief systems, then whatever your external experience, whatever external forces come at you, you have such a strong internal locus of control that you can behave unfazed and you can train your lower brain function to give you the appropriate stimulus when it needs to. And this will aid them in a world where, you know, AI, everyone's like, oh my God, AI, oh my God. And it's like, well, what it is it's a second brain. It's a simulation of the brain. But it's still basically a kitchen appliance that you got to turn on, and it's only as effective as its user, right? And it's programming. And so if you have a user who can't think very well, like here's the stack, right? Dumb human plus AI, smart human plus AI, right? So if you have a really smart person, they're going to beat the dumb guy with the AI because the dumb guy with the AI just outsources their thinking to the robot. And then the robot gives you some sort of generic boilerplate, responses based on maybe what somebody else did. And while that might be a really fast, quick and dirty solution, it's not going to get you very far because then everybody can do it. What's really going to, help the future generation is creating an internal locus of control where you can drive autonomous, like your brain does the autonomous action and then orchestrates, to the robots, to the systems, what should be done, right? This thing helps you, with reference material, and then you figure out where it's supposed to go. You decide how to best deliver these things, how to incorporate it into your art and design, how to engineer the kinds of things that you want, how to best communicate and reach out with the people that you need to. So what are we teaching? Here's Jim about to have his kid, and my brother's about to have his kid, and he and I had a talk, for 2 hours today. And we ended up just kind of like figuring out, okay, how do we get stuff on the table with, he's feeling overloaded, she's preggers and she's feeling overloaded. Tasks need to get done, emotions need to get sorted. What do we got to do? What do we got to put out into a shared space so that we can look at it, we can talk about it, and we can start to resolve these things so that we're not hitting a boiling point and creating conflict unnecessarily, right? What can we outsource to our systems? And so that's what I want to provide, is ways for um, people of today, right? For the parents and the soon to be parents, an opportunity to install good systems to manage and operate their households, so their kids start getting these more refined systems, so they don't have to keep reinventing the wheel over and over and over again. And we can distribute some of the wisdom and technology and moral technology as well that have been developed, by the most brilliant minds in history, so that we can create some of the most brilliant minds in the future.
Beautiful. Love it.
Sheesh. Okay. We're gonna close it on that?
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
All right.
Okay.
See ya.